Hello and welcome to another edition of Storytelling on Orchard Street. It feels really good to be back after a long hiatus. This is Pete Salamita. I'm your host for the day, and we're in the podcast studios of P&T Knitwear Bookstore, 180 Orchard Street, hence the name. With me is Saara Dutton. Saara Dutton is a writer, performer, and gadfly about town. She's been published in the New York Times, the New York Observer, Salon, Writer's Digest, and she's happy to be here to share stories with you. And we're happy to have her to share stories because she's a fantastic storyteller. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So it feels like we've done this before.
You don't say.
Actually, we had to do it over because I can't see the screen, and I thought we weren't recording.
But it was better the second time around, baby.
It's getting better, right?
Yes.
Maybe we should do this like a bunch of times till we get it perfect. So, I hear you grew up in the Pacific Northwest.
I did. So I grew up on an island called Whidbey Island, and
Did you say Woodby?
Yeah, it's Whidbey.
Oh, Whidbey.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and it was interesting because the northern end was a very
How big
military.
of an island was it?
Well, there was actually in the late 80s there were some bumper stickers, if I recall correctly, and they said the longest is now the best or something like that, which it sounds a little bit saucy.
Okay.
But I think at some point they decided that island was bigger than it really was. I don't know. It was an ad campaign. But anyway, so the northern end was very military. The southern end was very hippie. I grew up on the southern end.
Okay.
And it was really like this wonderful community of artists and performers.
Nice.
And I was able to be on the stage, and I sang an Elvis Presley song, at age 11.
Right.
And then, it's because we're here at this wonderful indie bookstore. That was also where I could just spend my time. It was called the Moonraker Bookstore. Josh was the owner, and she would just let me come in there if I was miserable or if something was bothering me. I just come in there. I didn't even have to buy a book. She would let me go upstairs and read all the trashy paperbacks I wanted.
Were you writing at that point?
I was writing,
So
yes.
you're like a lifelong writer?
I am indeed,
Okay.
yes.
Because I'm not.
So what were you doing creatively when you were at that age?
I wanted to be a Beatle, but I started with the guitar, and I don't know, it just didn't click with me. So I didn't really start playing the drums until I was like 17.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I did that. I was in bands my whole adult life until maybe 10 years ago. And then I discovered I like writing poetry. It's so weird because I never really tried to write too much. I mean, I wrote a couple of songs in a punk band, So, but so yeah, I'm late in life to the writer, poetry, reading type life.
But hold up, I didn't know you were a punk fan. Which were your favorite punk bands?
Oh, I hate when people ask me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, because favorite is so crazy. It's like I like so much music. It's so hard to
Just
pick
give me one, baby. Give me one.
Give you one. Black Flag.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Very nice.
I mean, before that, the Ramones. I saw the Ramones once. I didn't see the Sex Pistols, So
I love that the final concert they ever gave, there was that wonderful, did you ever get the feeling you've been cheated? I love that.
Yeah. So anyway, this is not about me. This is about you. Ooh. This is your show. So you've been writing your whole life. Did you study writing? Did you? And by the way, were your parents creative people?
My parents were people who made sure that we had a huge library.
Mm-hmm.
I always was surrounded by books, and that was very, very important.
Right.
That we had this massive, massive library.
Okay.
My dad loved the idea of being a writer.
Okay.
But that was more about, I'm going to have a glass of cognac, and
right.
I'm going to sit here,
right.
and I'm going to pretend to write. But, that's okay, too. Whatever.
Sure.
He enjoyed that process.
Right.
My mother was, more just a reader. She really always encouraged that.
So you got the love of
correct
reading and writing, and yeah, even though they didn't do it.
Right.
Did you study it in school?
No, I believe it or not, I was a political science and communications. Those are my two, major in political science, minor in communications.
And you wound up at CNN after that.
I did,
right.
yes.
Yeah. Because one of your stories mentions that.
Yes. No, and to me, it's a little.
So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I found out about your stories by going to your website, which is www.saaradutton.com. S and D have to be capitalized like that?
They don't have to be,
okay.
no.
Yeah, so I read some of your fantastic stories, and that's how I found out that you worked for CNN. And you went to you applied to work for CIA.
I did.
I love that story.
Well, and that
I can't picture you in the CIA.
Nobody ever can. It's an absurd construct. So essentially, I started my first job out of college was at CNN, and it wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be.
Right. What were you doing?
Well, so it was the late 1990s,
Right.
and that was an era in which you heard about 20-something millionaires, and they played foosball all day,
Right.
and then me, I was ripping scripts, and I was making $20,000 a year, which did not go any further than you think it would. So I would have some time on my breaks, and I would just Google different opportunities, and I found the CIA website, and it was just funny to me. It just had this rotating eye and the wah wah wah, and so I really thought, okay, I'm gonna be in the CIA, and I applied on a whim. I
Right.
truly didn't think they would even possibly want a dumbass like me. Lo and behold, I got way further than I should have.
Right.
It's actually kind of scary to think how close I came to becoming a CIA operative.
Well, you got a great article out of it.
I did, and that's what matters to me more than anything else. Because believe me, the country is better off with me not being a CIA operative. Trust me.
It's weird, right? Like there's such a who goes for those kind of jobs? I mean, obviously people do. I mean, what's the motivation? I don't know.
I didn't want to be sitting at CNN anymore
Right.
because I had a boring job. I worked
Right.
in satellites,
Right.
which is basically, just so you know, at the time, the job working in satellites, like big fat men in trucks would call me up and I would say, okay, now it's time to rotate your pole.
Wow. Wow, that's a little cheeky.
Yes.
cheeky.
Yes. I always laughed and they never did. They were like, okay, this is not funny anymore.
Oh well, they don't. No sense of humor.
No, none.
At CNN.
None.
Can you see if the numbers are moving? I'm so paranoid.
No, we're good. I think we are recording. Everybody's hearing our delightful conversation.
I know this is more than the listeners need to know, but or the people watching this, but the readout is for the time is like so small and so far away. It's like, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to.
We're
cut
good
you.
though.
Yeah, okay, we're good.
I think everybody's pleased.
Talk to me about strip clubs.
Well, so
Do you mind I'm taking this tact?
Oh, I
Okay.
don't mind. Listen, I have 0 skeletons in my closet
Okay.
because I always open my closet. Haha, skeleton, you're funny. Come
Okay.
on out. No, I have no problem whatsoever.
Right.
You can tell me. Ask me
Your writing
anything.
is really funny. I really got a kick out of it.
Well, thank you. As far as strip clubs go, that was another thing that happened because of CNN. Because my shift ended, at least one of my shifts, many odious shifts that I had. One of them ended at 4 a.m. And I still wasn't ready to go home.
Right.
I was 22 years old.
Right.
And so the only places that were open in Atlanta were the strip joints.
Even at 4 o'clock in the morning?
They were open, baby.
Wow.
They were open.
24-hour.
Yep. And so the thing that I learned was that there's this real wonderful community of strippers that, because, at the time, I don't know if it still is like this. I haven't been to a strip club in quite some time, but at the time, if you were a woman and you had to use the restrooms were always adjacent to the strippers' dressing rooms.
Right.
So you would always see strippers talking to their boyfriends or their children or yelling at each other. And you just kind of understood that there's this wonderful connection between women. Doesn't matter who you are. You could be a lawyer. You could be a stripper. You could be a CNNer.
Right.
You could be anybody. And there's a connection between all of us. And I loved that. I
Right.
loved strip clubs for that reason. I enjoyed being with those women.
And you really took the article far because you went to all levels of strip clubs.
I did. Yes, I did.
To the most
the high
from-
end
to the
low
seediest.
end. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you not consider a little part-time job on the side there?
I don't think I have zero sense of rhythm. I don't think they would have hired me. Those girls know what they're doing. They're really good.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you just happen to do that, and then you got the article? It's not like.
Yeah, no, that's how I have to say that's how I've gotten a lot of my articles. Is I'm just a curious person. I'm very interested.
So you go through something and then you write about it.
I've been to furry conventions.
Right.
I've been
to what kind?
A furry convention.
Furry, like
furries are they are people who dress up in animal costumes and they go to conventions.
Right.
And they are wonderful.
Did you dress
people.
up? Were you furry?
I did. I dressed up. I didn't go too crazy because like some of them had wonderful, big, very expensive costumes.
Okay.
For me, I just had some like some cat ears and a tail and a nose. But like the thing that I realized when I went to a number of these kinds of things, I've been to a vampire convention and all these different things, UFO convention.
Okay.
Is that ultimately it's not even about the thing; it's about the connection that you make with everybody. That you know that there's somebody out there that feels the way that you do.
People want to be connected.
They want to be connected, and it's beautiful. Right. I've always enjoyed every single time I've gone to some kind of convention. Right. I've always appreciated the people very much.
Right. Yeah, if you delve into it, yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever written an article, then went out and did something, or it's always been like that?
For me, it is definitely, I always get an idea first. Like, for example, just so you know, just letting you know, my next thing on my list,
nice segue.
There is something called, there's a company called Bare Necessities, and they do nude cruises.
Okay.
So
it's weird. I just thought I read about that somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure you did because there was one that was it's out of Miami. I think that's either coming up or that just happened.
And you have to actually wear something when you go to the buffet.
No, and that's the thing. Because listen, I actually went to a sex club here in Manhattan, and that was always part of the
that's
the
another
deal
one
too.
of your. That one's a Buffet of Desire.
Yes, Buffet of Desire.
Right.
Yes. So I always thought that was the funniest thing, that it was that you had to cover your lower torso when you go to the buffet.
Right. And the buffet the night you went was very disappointing.
Oh my God.
It was just chips.
Yes, the health department had shut it down.
Gee, I wonder why.
But anyway, the idea of the nude cruise is so funny to me because from what I understand, if I get this properly, is that the way in which the law works is that you cannot be nude right away. Like, you have to wait until you're a few miles out into sea. And then from what I hear, and again, please don't take me at my word because I may be incorrect, but this is what I've heard, is that at a certain point, then the captain gets over the loudspeakers. Okay, we have now reached the point. Yeah, you can take your clothes off, get naked.
I guess you have to be outside of the jurisdiction of
That's what I think
the United States or wherever you're going cruising from.
But I love that notion. I do want to do this because
Are you going to be nude?
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I don't think I could be in a nude cruise or a nuded.
But the idea that, because I've been on other like regular cruises and I've seen the activities they do, whether it's shuffleboard or whether it's karaoke, and I'm picturing that nude.
It's funny because if you suddenly see somebody nude, well, if it's in the realm of like a sexual experience, you're obviously expecting it, and it doesn't usually just it happens naturally or whatever. But if you see somebody nude on the street, it's really weird, right?
Yes.
But also, like, you get, like, if you're, because I've never been to a nude beach or a nude anything, nudist retreat, nudist colony. I guess you get used to seeing all kinds of different people nude, or because I don't know if I want to see other people nude for the most part.
Having been to that sex club, it was called Le Trapeze, by the way, if anybody wants to know. Having been there, you do not. You do not want to see the regular person nude.
I know.
It's not good.
Yeah. I don't think I'm a nudist. I only want to see the people I want to see nude.
Yeah.
I just had a deja vu. I feel like I had this conversation before.
Oh my God! Well, it wasn't with me.
I know. So we jumped really quick into some of the things you've written, which is fine. Is there anything about your youth that you want to talk about, or like we just went right into one of your jobs, or CNN? What did you do after CNN?
So I was fortunate in that The thing about CNN is that you really make a lot of connections very quickly, and there's something very like maybe every industry is like this, but I feel as though cable news is particularly like this. It's very small,
Right.
so you can always get a job because somebody is always, oh, I'm moving to Denver or I'm moving to California, and
Right.
then you can sort of connect with people. So once I started working for CNN, it was always very easy to continue to work within that industry. And
But did you get to do more? Like, you're a creative person. You should have been doing something creative, not just telling somebody about their flagpole.
Sorry. No. Yeah. Yes. No. So what I would do is I would do a very boring. Okay, that's a good point.
Right.
So when I worked in cable news, it was primarily technical stuff.
Right.
Because then that let me to be free to do creative stuff on my own time. Because
Okay.
if I were writing for cable news,
Right.
then my brain would always be focused on writing in a specific way that's just for news.
Right.
So because I was always doing technical stuff,
Right.
I could then free my brain on my off time.
Okay, that's okay, because your job doesn't have to be. You need to pay bills.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And then I would pay my bills also with the freelance stuff that I did
Right.
for the New York Times and for the Observer and so forth. So it
So
worked
besides
out well.
these four, you've been published many more
Yes,
times.
many more times. Yeah, I
Right.
just threw those down there because I didn't think you wanted to go through all my publications.
No, but on the website, were there more than those four?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, not
didn't
on the
know.
website.
Yeah.
I just put those down.
Right.
Just because I thought
Because
they
I
were
want
the
to read
funniest.
more. You have a book?
Okay.
Do you have a book?
I wish I did.
Because I
Believe
thought
me.
I saw that on your website. You wish you had a book. Why don't you?
Yes.
Why don't you have a book?
I have my Daruma eye doll with the one
Right.
eye. He's still a Cyclops bastard. I'm still waiting to publish that book. And so I have a number of books that I've written. I'm just waiting for that agent, baby.
I got it.
I've got a memoir. I've got a novel that I wrote. I recently wrote with my friend Michael Maiello a wonderful comedic murder mystery called Late Checkout.
Nice.
So just looking for that agent.
Right. So wait, you said a memoir and a novel. What's the novel about?
So the novel that I wrote is called Godhead at the Detour, and it's a very strange novel about witchcraft on Whidbey Island. It is. I mean, I don't call it Whidbey because
Right,
I don't
yeah,
want to get
sure.
sued. But
And is this like based on true experience?
it is. Yes, it is based on true experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just a lot of because when you live in a small community, there's always these wild stories and rumors and everything, and half of them aren't true, but they're interesting.
Right.
It's always kind of fascinating when people like disseminate all this kind of weird
Right.
whisperings of rumors and stories and everything, and it makes for a great novel, I think.
Well, so you lived on Whidbey Island, but then you also you told me you lived in Honolulu in the 70s?
Yes,
And
I'll be reading about
right,
that.
yes,
Yes, when
okay.
I was a very young child. Yes,
Okay.
that's where I lived, is Honolulu.
Where are your parents? Are your parents still with you?
So
with us?
my mom is still with us, and I'm a first generation American. So
Okay.
my mother is from Finland,
Right.
and my father was from Canada. He is no longer with us.
Sorry.
I think that there's something really great about having a first generation outlook
Sure.
on things,
Right.
because you're kind of like one foot in, 1 foot out.
Right.
And I kind of like being in that
Sure.
situation.
Where's your mom?
So she's in Florida, in this
Okay.
really cool little village called Gulfport, which is just outside of St. Petersburg, which is also a fantastic city.
Right.
I'm a real cheerleader for Gulfport and
Okay.
for St. Petersburg.
So you go visit once in a while?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going in July.
Oh, awesome. You're going to go from the heat to the heat.
I know. Oh my God. But you know what? At least she has a pool. Like she lives in
Yeah,
a condo, so
right.
I can put my fat
Is
ass
she
in the
near
pool.
a beach?
She's near a beach.
So,
yes.
so there you
it's
go.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. And it's, I don't know, is it the same kind of heat? Because New York is, when you get in a heat wave in New York, can I read something? Because it's,
Yeah, read something.
and then we'll probably go into your story. But I want to read this because I wrote this a few years ago, and it's very topical.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay, it's called Things Get Uncivil. It was fucking hot. No way else to slice it. Fourth day in a row past the qualifications of an official heat wave. Humid blood-changing degrees. Break an egg on the pavement and watch it fry. If you live in this stinking, godforsaken city long enough, when it's like this, the concrete and the glass, it just bakes your soul. Things smell worse than usual, and the subway always breaks down. Things get really uncivil. People get their nerves on edge. They crack crank up the AC and they sit in their underwear and complain about things. I choose not to complain. I've been through it so many times before. And when you come down to it, it sucks, but I'll survive or I won't. It's a small price to pay to be a city dweller and alive.
Oh, I love that. You know, when I first moved here, there was a guy that lived on 2nd Avenue, and we used to call him 2nd Avenue Masturbator. The man, like, literally was just there naked, and you could tell that he was just masturbating in front of his window.
Yikes.
And it's hot, and
right.
yeah.
Oh, that's a sight.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the city can be a bit much. What did my friend say? My friend was talking about the heat, and he said it smelled like like a garbage truck and a dead whale had a baby. But it's really hard to describe with it. And I love the city. I love living here. I've been here since '79. When did you move here, and why?
Okay, so I moved here, and it's really interesting. So I moved here. I moved. You'll hear the story that I tell. I moved to Fort Lee, New Jersey 1 month before September 11th.
Wow.
To move in with a family friend because I was getting prepared to move to New York City. And then I remember I moved in like 1 month after September 11th, and I remember seeing all of the caution tape and all those incredibly sad. Remember, there were all these really horrible pictures of, have you seen my daddy? Have you seen my mother? Have you, you know.
Did that event make you think, question moving here?
You know, it made my mother question moving here, but not me.
Okay.
I said, no, Mom, I have always wanted to move here. And it's funny because, like, so in Honolulu, I remember, like, watching Sesame Street as a kid, and I was pointing out at, Ernie and Bert. I was like, Mommy, I'm going to live with Ernie and Bert. And she was like, that's not true. That's not. My mother is Finnish, by the way.
Yes.
Sorry. That's not true. There is no Ernie and Bert. There is no Sesame Street. But there is. Like, it's here. It is right here. This is. And so I told her when I moved here, I'm like, haha, I was right.
Right.
I've always wanted to live here.
Right. I moved to go to college. I mean, I lived on Long Island, and a friend of mine's father bought a brownstone and said, you want to share the apartment? I said, sure. And I went to college here. That's why I'm here. And been here since '79. But, we don't want to get too deep into 9/11, but I live in Brooklyn, not too far in, South Slope, and you could see the debris.
Yeah.
It was a terrible thing. So you moved here, and then what?
I moved here, and, the thing that I found the most surprising is that all of the stories about New Yorkers being rude are not true. Right. I have never felt that New Yorkers
We're just
are
in
rude.
a hurry.
Exactly.
We have, and it's easy to be like, you live like in some sleepy Vermont town, and it's easy to be cheerful.
Right.
But we have light pollution and noise pollution and too many people, and so it comes off that way. But I think New Yorkers are given a bad rap to some degree.
Well, and I also think that the way in which gratitude is expressed could be different. Like, I remember...
But by the way, you're a very friendly person, I think, right?
I try to be.
You seem to be. So maybe that's why you also don't get that reaction from other New Yorkers, because you have a brightness about you.
Oh, thank you very much. But I remember years ago there was a really heavy snowstorm, and I live near an Amish market, and there was a woman that was an old woman. She was pushing her grocery cart, trying to cross the street, and it was snowing, and it was just a big mess. And so it was me and 5 other people. We thought, we're gonna help this old lady. We're gonna help her cross the street. So, like, some people held the cars back, and some people held her arm and like whatever. So we all felt good about ourselves that we helped this woman and her groceries cross the street. All right. And so as she gets across the street and she's about to get into her apartment, she just turns around and she says, I didn't need your help anyway. Get the hell out of here. And I knew that was a thank you.
Yes.
I did. I knew that was a thank you.
You're very open-minded. So you mentioned that was it 2006? You said you started that multimedia event.
Yes, it was called Mama D's Arts Bordello, and it was 2006. And I do believe it was definitely, if not the first, one of the first of its kind that we had. So we would have. Different kinds of video behind the performers. We would have dancers, we would have singers, we would have poets, magicians, like anything that you could do.
You didn't have videotape any of them, did you?
We do have some video, yes.
Okay.
And I'm proud to say that you know somebody who got her start on our stage, Ali Wong. Fabulous.
Oh, get out of here, really?
Comic Ali Wong, yes.
All right. Yeah, see, you're a star maker.
There we go.
You want to read your
Sure.
piece?
Now,
Set it up for the listeners.
So now I want to ask you. So I think this is. I'm going to say it's about 15 minutes long. So do you want me to read the whole thing, or like what's your usual?
How about you read the whole thing? But would it be weird if you took a break and then we talk a little more and you went back to it?
Not at all.
Okay.
So let me know when you want to take a break, and
you take a break when you feel like it's a good one, a good place,
Okay.
a good place to break.
All right. As we mentioned, I spent my very early childhood in Honolulu, and my parents are both first-generation Americans, and both a little bit crazy. And in the late 1970s, if you were there, you know, very crazy. So that's the best way to set this up. This is called the Honolulu Boys Club. The bistro on Kapiolani in Waikiki was dark. No windows to let in the Hawaiian sun, to see hula dancers, ukulele strummers, or Midwestern tourists. It was dimly lit, with dark booths and dark carpet. Truth be told, although it rarely was at the bistro, daylight would have ruined the place, like a roll of undeveloped film. But in the strange, lens-flared haze of the late 1970s, the bistro became the Honolulu Boys Clubhouse. Of course, the Honolulu boys were not boys at all, and hadn't been for 2 decades or more. They were a middle-aged, ragtag group of functioning alcoholics, big tippers, sons of bitches, or men about town, depending on who you asked. They were all nut-brown from poolside poker games, and so prone to lying about eating live monkey brains in Thailand, snorting coke off of Farrah Fawcett's thighs, karate-chopping muggers in New York, that at a certain point, the lies became competitive. The boys stopped questioning the veracity of these stories and started grading them on sheer balls-out bravado. The core members of the Honolulu Boys Club were my dad, a doctor whose clinic was on the 3rd floor of the Hyatt Regency, a Brooklyn-born bookie nicknamed Hookie, hotel managers Nick and Russ, a journalist for the Honolulu Star-Bulletin named Dave, a businessman, alias Irv, who made millions from a dry oil well, and a tough bastard named Marty. Nobody really knew what the hell Marty did, just that he was the son of a boxer from New Orleans, and nobody fucked with them, not even big Samoan guys who beat up haoles for sport. The boys met up every Saturday night, swaggering into the bistro, clouds of Winston cigarette smoke trailing them as they called out, "Hey, you fucking turkeys," and punched each other on the shoulders. They ate steak tartare, escargot, and my dad loved the live Maine lobster so much that bistro owner Carl once walked his soon-to-be-cooked crustacean through the restaurant on a leash. The boys dressed to impress, but they didn't amp up their style to score with the stewardesses who stopped by on layovers, although they often did. And it sure wasn't for the 2 hookers who occasionally joined them, even if the Vietnamese one would ask the waiter for some whipped cream to sweeten the blowjob she gave under the table, hidden by the white tablecloth, only peeking out to order another Harvey Wallbanger. No. The crisp Pierre Cardin shirts, Paco Rabanne cologne, always splashed, never splits, please. Spritzing was for pussies. Shined Gucci loafers, gold cornuto necklaces, nestled just so in graying chest hair, and diamond pinky rings were a new type of pissing contest. In this last gasp of machismo, these men tried to outdo each other, not by slaying dragons, but by knowing how to apply just enough Vitalis hairspray to disguise a bald spot or look effortlessly tousled. Along with the lack of windows, this clubhouse on Kapiolani was protected by the me-decade's lack of handheld technology. No cell phones, no smartphones. So no one's wife could shriek about how the kids were driving her crazy. No one's mistress could text unfortunate results from a pregnancy test. No ringtone ever interrupted a joke about Raquel Welch's tits. And make no mistake, these were the golden years of canned jokes. Every real man had a stockpile of them. Observational humor hadn't really been invented yet. You did not fly by the seat of your Ralph Lauren pants. Nobody made jokes with open-ended punchlines like, why is that? What's up with that? Who does that? I mean, really? You know? Fuck no. These jokes were rehearsed, delivered with clockwork timing, passed from man to man at cocktail parties, written down, published in Playboy, sold in books like The World's Best Dirty Jokes by Mr. J. These jokes were shorthand, code. They defined manhood. Regular guys, not just professional comics, had to have the best, freshest jokes for any given social situation. It was humiliating if someone finished your joke for you and told you they'd heard that one before. Or worse, that you told it before. My dad always went for the doctor jokes. Okay. So I'm doing a prostate exam. Guy turns around and says to me, hey, doc, can you use 2 fingers? I says, why? He says, I want a second opinion. Marty was the master of the dick jokes. Guy walks into a whorehouse. He says, I got 5 cocks. Hooker says, how do your pants fit? He says, like a glove. Irv went for the absurdist humor. 2 cannibals are eating a clown. One says to the other, does this taste funny to you? The rest of the boys had a...
Wait, I gotta ask you, did you make these jokes up or you remember these?
No. These are legit. Like, my father would tell these jokes. Wait, so we can stop now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
They're pretty funny though.
Yeah, no, let's stop now, yeah.
It's great. There's so many things in there that speak 70s, you know. I was going to try to find a pen so I could write them all down. The references went by so fast.
Yeah, well, and that's what I say. I think that there's been plenty of stories written about, from an adult perspective, from a child's perspective. Mm-hmm. The thing about being a little kid in the 70s is that, like, I don't think that adults hid their dirty jokes or their wants and desires in a way that I think adults try to,
especially in the 70s, a little more free. So I grew up I was born in the late 50s.
Yeah.
So my parents were not like that.
Right.
Yeah. My father was pretty straight-laced. No cursing, no, Yeah.
Yeah, there was something different about being a kid in that era. I think adults
so.
And I think it really came down to this notion of just like I have the right to do this. I'm going to be free to be what I want.
Right.
It was, for adults, it was definitely this time like I'm going to do this.
So you actually got to be around these people? I mean.
Oh yes, yeah. No, no. I had a very strange childhood.
Right.
I truly did. But I don't have any sadness about that.
Right.
I know that I didn't have a Leave It to Beaver childhood, and I'm cool with that.
Right.
I'm 100% cool with that.
Well, I don't know who really wants that anyway.
Right. Exactly.
You wouldn't be the writer you are if you
Well,
didn't.
that's what I think.
Yeah.
I really do.
Right. So okay, I think you should keep going because I want to hear the rest of it.
Oh, okay.
But I just wanted to find out if those were real.
No, those
you made
are
those
legit.
jokes.
No, those are legitimately from my dad's.
Okay.
So the rest of the boys had a steady rotation of jokes cobbled together from equal parts Raquel Welch's tits, the Pope, assorted rabbis, ethnic stereotypes, and farts. In this dark, highly air-conditioned lair with no technological disruptions, you could win arguments even if you were wrong. Truth-dodging loudmouths ruled the room. People did not have irrefutable proof at their fingertips. So when you argued that, statistically speaking, Mansell was better than Mays, no one could Google it and tell you were full of shit. Arguments could simply go on for hours and hours, getting louder and louder as the boys got drunker and drunker, ordering scotch, Jack and Cokes, and once, when my dad was totally plastered, a martini, which was just so damn hilarious that he started ordering every martini like that. With no internet access, no windows, no wives, no outset influences or distractions at all, the Honolulu boys created a mythological world. No one could tell them they weren't young, vibrant, and full of promise. Instead of knocking on 40, teetering on divorce, and getting paunchy from too much booze and béarnaise sauce, the mythology was fireproof. They concocted plots for movies that would never be filmed. They hatched business plans that would never succeed, the most infamous one being the 3-legged pantyhose scheme. And my dad hashed out ideas for books that would never be written. Okay. Here's the book, all right? Listen to me. All right. It's called Hold On to My Ankles, Please. And you know how I came up with this title? Years ago, I was doing a pap smear. I'm going in with the speculum, and I say to the nurse, okay, hold on to my ankles, please. 2 seconds later, I turn around and she is. She's actually holding on to my fucking ankles. Unhindered by fact checkers, they engaged in what passes for intellectual discourse when everyone is sloshed. How many capital cities start with the letter P? If you were ballin' Siamese twins, what position would you do it in? What really happened to the crew of Flight 19 back in 1945? But more than anything, the clubhouse on Kapiolani was a place where potential was shielded from practical application. Potential was fragile, and it might disintegrate outside that sunless cave. Real life had a way of shitting on potential, so stories were told about what would have been, achievements that should have been, if only life weren't riddled with lousy luck and ambitious thieves. History was rewritten at the bistro by these runners-up, these actors left on the cutting room floor, these William Daws of Honolulu. Like the legend of how Irv almost invented the electronic tax return. Okay. I'm at a CPA convention in New Orleans back in '61. Crazy city. There was this convention of morticians staying in the same hotel as us. So all these creepy guys were standing around with jet black hair, all wearing jet black suits with pasty, mayonnaise-colored skin. And their wives were there too. And that's the part that got me. Their wives all did their makeup to look like corpses. Ash gray faces and, blue lips. It was like the only way they could get their husbands to notice them was to look like dead people. Scared the shit out of me. I couldn't look at them. I couldn't be in the same room with these people. I swear to Christ, they smelled like formaldehyde. So at about 2 o'clock in the morning, one of these corpse wives comes into my pitch dark room, drunk out of her mind. She must have thought I was a creep husband because she puts her hand on my schwanz and starts massaging it. I almost crapped my pants, only I wasn't wearing any. I like to sleep nude. It's more comfy that way. But it was like the Grim Reaper came to give me a hand job, so I jump up, flip on the lights, and I say, "What the hell are you doing?" And of course, like I say, I'm nude. Then her husband bangs in. I guess they were staying next door, so he says, "What the hell is going on here?" So then the corpse wife runs out of the room. The whole thing upset me so much, I leave the convention 2 days early. I get back to find out that, they made some shit up about me assaulting her just to save face, so I get fired. Bad time in my career for this to happen, because I had just about perfected the electronic tax return. Of course, some other schmuck got the credit. Truth was malleable, dictated not by the boundaries of fact, but the boundaries of the bistro. As soon as they left that dark den, reality ruined everything. Lying may have been revered at the bistro, but it had a decidedly different effect at home. Outside of this clubhouse, their behavior wasn't as acceptable. Worse, real life wasn't as cinematic. You couldn't guarantee a chorus of approval, smiling faces, your personal laugh track, thighs and backs stinging from being slapped so hard. Hijacks that would have been revered and embellished by the boys, like, pitching your infant kid over a balcony at a party and casually yelling out, "Hey, catch!" to no one in particular down below. Yes, that happened to me. Just weren't as amusing to your wife, especially stern, no-nonsense Finnish women like my mom. Life outside the bistro started to feel stifling. People like my mom, who dealt in facts and daily routines, seemed dull and lacking in imagination. My dad began to wonder why there had to be a boundary between the bistro and real life at all. Why couldn't it all blend together? What was the worst that could happen? So we can stop there, and then we can,
Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to leave me on the edge of
Well, there's more, but
I
feel like, we can chat and whatever else.
I love it so far. It's great.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah.
All right.
And you're a great storyteller.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
You got me on the seat of my pants waiting to hear what happens.
Well, I'll finish it whenever you're ready.
Okay.
But I thought, if you want to tell a story now.
Okay, I got one more, and it's a short one. So, we can get back to your story soon. It's called Put on a Show. She was a master of puppets, and I was one of them. You can say she put her hand where it doesn't belong, but I liked it. She moved me. I was at her whim, ready to dance or stumble as a joke. I was the center of attention, but she was in control. Why did I agree to be at her beck and call? Because sometimes in life, it's good to be led by strings with no thoughts at all. When a strong woman casts a spell and leaves you hollow inside, a shell of your former self, you've got no choice but to put on a show.
Ooh, I love that.
I tried to pick two ones. Well, the first one was because of the heat. But yeah, I thought this might fit in with.
It did. That was perfect, and it actually like I stopped at the right spot for that. That worked out really good.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know when this. It's not going to air for a few days, or we have to just go back and anyway. Maybe the heat wave will be done, or people that are watching this or listening to it are not in New York City and don't realize, like, I hate the heat waves.
Oh, I can't stand it. Like, I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, I there's some parts of summer I like, but not the heat wave parts.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, we had some really lovely weather in the past couple of weeks. And
it was
a
perfect.
breeze.
Actually, we had like a week that was like maybe the best week of the year, right?
Yep, I completely agree.
Yeah. I'm not an extreme person.
Me either.
I like the in-betweens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Although, as a Nordic person, I do enjoy some heavy snowstorms. So I guess I like that.
Did you, so, you grew up in warmer climates.
No,
but
I
is
did.
that
But
like,
when I visit Finland,
Right,
to see my family in Finland.
but is it hereditary?
I
Or is
think
it
it
something
is.
in your DNA?
I think it. Like, I truly love snow. I
Right.
mean, I 100%. I just dig it. I love it.
Right.
It doesn't even feel cold to me.
Right.
I'm a snow person.
But not New York City, right? New York City's not great for snow.
Okay, you know what? But there are times in New York, and you know this,
Like in
because you've lived
Vermont
here.
or something,
No, but
yeah.
when you've lived here since you said 1979, is that
Correct,
correct?
yes.
Okay, so I'm sure you've experienced this. I remember my first like really heavy snowstorm here, and the people who don't live in New York don't know this. When you live in an old building, because of I just found this out because of the COVID pandemic, that because of the Spanish flu, some of these old buildings, they're built so that the heater is jacked up because they want to force you to open the windows.
Wow. I didn't know that's why those apartments are so hot.
Yes. I thought it was because there was too many old women living in my building. I was
Right.
like, oh, those horrible old women.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was by design that
Right.
they want to force you to open the windows so that
Wow.
you get some
right.
air going through. So I remember my first really heavy snowstorm, and I'm in these old buildings, and I open windows, and then it's the city gets so quiet. It's the most amazing
like it.
thing.
I like when it first happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the storm. Especially when it's a snowstorm that's not like really windy and
Right.
like when I do like going out and it's quiet and it's beautiful. It looks great. The city looks great.
Until the
But
piss
then,
yeah.
Yeah, then like 2 or 3 days later, it's like
It's
mud
repulsive.
and slush and
But this
and you got to curse like climbing over it.
And the dog owners don't pick up the poop because they think
yeah,
they can just
yeah.
put the snow over it, which really annoys me. But
You know-
but this particular night, the last thing I got to say is I remember opening the windows and it was so quiet, and then somebody across the way had their windows open and they played Frank Sinatra's New York, New York,
Oh,
and it was
okay.
the coolest thing to
That's
see the
very
snow and to hear that.
That sounds like a good
Yeah.
scene that you just painted there. Yeah. We don't get a whole lot of those kind of snowstorms though.
I miss them.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only one, but I do.
I think there was it 96? We had a big snowstorm. I think it was 96 where I have a car and I didn't move it for a month. It was buried.
Wow.
Because I don't really always need it, and it's like, okay, I'm not digging it out, because if you dig your car out, then you might have to dig a space somewhere else.
Yeah.
You have to dig in. That's another thing. So people in the suburbs probably don't get. We don't have driveways.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you live in the city?
I do. I live. It's not a cool neighborhood, but I like it anyway. I live in Midtown East.
Okay.
Which anybody who is a cool New Yorker is like, oh, gross. Why would you live there? But
Right.
I like it.
Right.
Works for me.
I've never lived in Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
I've always been in Brooklyn. And literally since ¡79, 2 places, and they were 2 blocks apart from each other.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well done.
It's pretty weird, right?
Yeah.
Let's go back to the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we've left off with what's the worst that could happen, and you're going to find out.
Okay.
Okay. So my dad found out when he started cheating on my mom with a Pan Am stewardess, and yes, they were called stewardesses back then, who stopped by the bistro one night. She was a platinum blonde who matched him drink for drink, believed all his bullshit stories, and convinced him to ditch his glasses for contacts. She was perfect. Better yet, my dad's stewardess was just as prone to outrageous hijinks as he was. Mom and I only saw her scrawny frame once. Consequently, my mom would forever refer to her as buttless. She stormed into our home in a strapless cocktail dress, ripped a painting off the wall, smashed it on the coffee table, slit her wrists with a large shard of glass, and began wiping the blood all over the white shag carpet. I was barefoot, so Mom scooped me up and we slipped out the door. We kept running down Kalakaua Avenue, me in her arms, her straw bag bouncing against her thigh, dodging vacationeers. We finally darted into a gift shop where my mother sat down to cry next to a pyramid of swaying mechanical hula dolls. Dad and Buttless got married about a year later, with all of the Honolulu boys in attendance. My dad sporting a 3-piece polyester wedding suit, as Judy Collins' version of Send in the Clowns swelled over the quadraphonic sound system.
Wait a second. What color was it?
It was white. Baby, it was white. Yep.
I thought it was one of those like outrageous 70s color.
No.
Like the Eleganza catalog or something.
Eleganza.
Yeah.
Neither the bride nor the groom realized how silly Send in the Clowns was. It was both ridiculous and apropos. Marriage did not mellow Buttless. She and my dad would go to dinner parties and she'd break plates over his head. She'd strip off her clothes in public, running naked down Ala Moana Boulevard. Dad would chase her, grab her, sling her over his shoulder, and throw her in his plum-colored Lincoln Continental. She tore up our family photos. She didn't even take them out of the albums and just ripped up the cardboard pages 3 at a time. I discovered them, shredded memories, oversized confetti in a box. He always said she did it alone, but I have often wondered where he was when she was destroying our Kodak moments. One night, a single bullet tore through the front door of our house, hitting right above the TV as Mom and I watched The Love Boat. We never knew if it was just a stray bullet from an unrelated incident or a deliberate warning from Buttless. Mom dug the bullet out of the wall and kept it as a souvenir of a crime she could never prove. We quickly moved to a cheap apartment next to an outdoor gay bar on Kuhio Street, where I fell asleep each night to the oddly comforting sound of drunken gay men singing Donna Summer songs, a disco lullaby. But at a certain point, Dad realized the lunacy, the fantasy, the absurdity, they just weren't as much fun without the bistro's protective barrier. While those windowless walls kept killjoys at bay, they were also a much-needed separation, illusion, and reality. At a certain point, disco anthems like Do It Till You're Satisfied, More, and Don't Stop Till You Get Enough sounded less like an endorsement of hedonism and more like a mandate. At a certain point, he was oversatisfied, didn't want more, and had gotten enough. It was time to stop. That moment might have been the morning he woke up to find Buttless sitting on his chest with a butcher knife at his throat. He leaped up, and she stabbed the waterbed instead of him, unleashing a spring of water that quickly saturated the flocati rug. Hungover, Dad fled his waterlogged bedroom. Sorry. It's not funny, but it's funny to me.
So this is all true?
This is all true. This is 100%
what a
true.
story. Holy cow.
He fled his waterlogged bedroom, hopped in his Lincoln, and drove over to our apartment. He wanted to talk to someone normal, someone who knew how to scramble eggs in a frying pan and not just hit him over the head with it. He wanted my mom. But he never actually spoke to her that day. Instead, he got as far as the front yard where he saw me playing with a friend. I looked up at him and said, "That's my daddy." He turned right back around, got back in the car, and started to cry so hard that one of his contacts fell out. In the film adaptation of my dad's life, this would have been when the feel-good montage begins. I'd choose a Cat Stevens song for the background music. He threw away his contacts and went back to his glasses. He began divorce proceedings from Buttless. He read James Fix's book, The Complete Book of Running, and he began training for the Honolulu Marathon, running every day around the Alawai Canal. A few months after he completed the marathon, while wearing Finnish flag shorts in honor of my mom, he crossed the finish line as a trickle of blood ran down his leg. The intense training had taken a toll. He'd had a hemorrhoid removed the day before. The doctor performed the surgery and preserved it in a lucite plaque engraved with the inscription, E. Wayne Dutton, brain encephalitis. My parents remarried. I imagine the news gave renewed hope to my friends, a secret hope harbored by divorced kids across the country. Even after Mom and Dad sat down and told you in their touchy-feely, earth-toned way and explained in copyrighted I'm okay, you're okay vernacular that, oh, you know, sometimes parents just want different things for themselves, but they always love you. And just like those impossibly precocious kids in Neil Simon movies, we were all supposed to understand. The term family values hadn't been coined yet. We kids were expected to play our games quietly while adults reveled in theirs. And we did. We woke up alone on Saturday mornings while divorced parents, who were just trying to get their shit together, slept in their shaded bedrooms until noon. We giggled at Laugh Olympics and Scooby-Doo, chomping down on our cereal. Forget the Madeleines and tea. The unmistakable metallic flavor of blood, sugar, and milk awakens my Proustian memories. I guess watching your parents get remarried should have been every latchkey kid's dream come true. A fantasy acted out in wood-paneled dens and rec rooms, building Lego homes for our restored, rebuilt families, and squishing Barbie and Ken together, making them fuck in their plastic dream house. But not me. I never believed my dad when he said that he'd be a better man and that everything was going to be okay. Even at 8 years old, I knew better. Didn't matter to me that he tried to prove himself by running a marathon and divorcing a stewardess. Lying was in his genes. Even as a little boy, he respected the poor, dirty-looking kid in class who rode a wooden horse to school each day and carried an empty lunchbox, pretending both the horse and the invisible sandwich were real. Lying was in my genes, too. I was the kid who lied to our neighbors and said the babysitter was in the shower, convincing myself that I smelled the herbal essence shampoo and heard water running, when the truth was we couldn't afford a babysitter. So the adage is true. It takes one to know one. The only thing I believed was that Dad sincerely wanted to believe he was telling the truth. My mom is the only truth keeper in our family. She kept his three-piece white suit from the wedding to buttless in the attic with all the other outdated clothes and abandoned toys and broken items. I wore it 3 separate times. When I delivered the Gettysburg Address at school, when I went as Groucho Marx for Halloween, and when I played Pinocchio's nemesis, Stromboli, in a local play. Why I thought all 3 men would have worn my dad's wine-stained polyester wedding suit is a mystery. Mom also kept all those ripped photos. We had the negatives, but she never developed a single one. She said our family history was more authentic this way, yellowing and scotch taped together. Those ripped photos were tangible evidence of Dad's sins. I suspect she worried that if we didn't keep them as they were, he might start telling an entirely different story. The truth would disappear like a bruise, gradually fading from purple to green and eventually to nothing at all.
Oh, cool.
I could go on, but you know what? I think it's done. I think that's good.
Okay, yeah. That's a great story. I mean, it's almost hard to believe you made some of that up. You know, I mean, that you didn't make some of that up. It's great. It really is.
Thank you.
And the plan is to find a publisher for it, or?
Yeah, that is the goal. I think, like I say, I just think there have been so many stories about adults in that era, but
right.
not so much with children. And I think that with every era, you know, if you were a kid in the 90s, if you were a kid in the early 2000s, you know,
right.
there's this idea of like looking at the adults in your life.
Right.
And I would love to hear those stories more.
How did you get all the detail in there? Like, how do you remember that much stuff? I'm not somebody who could.
You know, it's so weird because
Did you have a journal, or did you ever you've been thinking about this your whole life? Or?
I don't remember my late teenage years much because I didn't enjoy them. Huh. But like my childhood years, I really have such vivid memories.
Well, this would be a vivid memory.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big thing to happen. Yeah. And the gunshot and, you know, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. And there's just something also because because I'm an only child and like, you know, my dad, when they got divorced, he really did not give my mom much money. And so I always felt like it was her and me together. And I think I had to grow up kind of fast.
And how did it end between your mom and dad? I mean, did they stay married, or?
Well, so I didn't want to go on because I don't know how much longer we have. So
we should probably wrap it up soon.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
So they seemed like a good spot to finish.
Right.
But they divorced, and then my dad was the one that actually came back to my mother.
Right.
But it always bugged me, and I say this even though he's not with us anymore, that he never actually acknowledged what he had done.
Right.
That was the one thing that I'm like, why didn't you acknowledge what you did? I'm just supposed to, bring
So
this.
or you don't think he did to your mother at all?
We've talked about it. She didn't
she never-
apologize to him either, and pardon me, he didn't
Okay.
apologize to her.
Right.
And we've talked about this, that like, wow, you just come back in our lives and you don't acknowledge what you've done.
Right.
So she got over it. I don't know if I did.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. That's a pretty traumatic little event there. I was just curious what beaver helmet is.
Oh, so that was, so when Mama D's Arts Bordello, I wanted to kill the character off, kind of like David Bowie killed off Ziggy Stardust. And so I had this wonderful, and I have footage of this, I had this wonderful New Orleans jazz funeral where I killed myself on stage.
Wow.
And then I had like a whole full-on, like with the trombone and with the gorgeous women.
So you killed yourself, like an aspect of your artistic
so the
life,
character
or?
is, the character is called Mama D.
Okay.
And I just killed her on stage. I committed
So it was something
suicide.
you had been doing for a while.
Right.
Right.
And I just did it because I thought I really want to have a New Orleans jazz funeral.
Right.
And this is the only way I can enjoy it.
Yeah.
So so then when I killed her off, then I just came back with a beaver helmet. It's a silly name.
Right.
But like I never came back as that character anymore, and but I still did shows.
Do you do other kinds of performances now besides the read-ins?
I've done some podcasts.
Right.
Obviously here I'm with you. But no, nothing. And it's weird. I must say that COVID really did a number on me in terms of like
Getting yourself out there and doing. Yeah.
Well, and then it also seems like it's difficult to find space in this town, which is a boring conversation. But it's tougher to find space than it used to be.
Right. You think you mean. Or is it that young people know where they are or something? Or
well, that's an interesting question.
Right. Like there's an alternative place out there, but it's younger people that are doing it, or I don't know. Do young people do that? I don't even know. Because I'm not young.
Well, and it's funny because that's
like the kind of things we've done all our lives.
Yeah, no.
I know people still performing and doing bands and other things, but I wonder if it's as important to people as it was for us.
So, from what I understand about the youngsters, no, I think that there is less of a need to be like with each other. Like people are more comfortable.
Isolated.
Well, no, they're more comfortable with connecting online, which is
Sure.
great. Good for you. But I don't think people have as much of a need
No,
to be together.
that's probably true.
We need to be
We
together.
needed to.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of all. We had no choice, really. I mean,
That's
what
also
else
true.
was there?
Yeah, no, it's either go out or be alone. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But then conversely, I always think about this, that like if you were bullied at school, at least you knew that when you went home, you could, you weren't going to be bullied until the next day at 8:30 o'clock, at 8:30 in the morning. Whereas now you can be bullied 24 hours a day.
That's
and I
true.
think that's
You can't
so
get away
terrible.
from it.
Right. And
by
makes me
people you
sad.
don't even know.
Right.
So what's up? What's new coming up for you? Are you doing any features, reading features, or
Man,
any
I
other
wish I could
else,
promote something. The only thing I'm really focused on right now is trying to get some books published.
Okay, you hear it out there. Put it out in the zeitgeist, everybody.
Yes, manifesting. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that pretty much does it for the show, and it went really fast.
It did.
Yes. There's the theme. That's the guitar stylings of Mr. Fredo Genziano, my partner in the music project Bitter Pill Collective. It's been great talking to you.
You as well.
And I loved hearing your story, and I hope to hear more and read your memoir at some point when it's published. Let's put out some good thoughts for you.
Thank you.
So again, this is Storytelling on Orchard Street. I think it's the 40th episode. I might be wrong. Maybe it's 40, 41. Anyway, it feels good to be back. I hope you all enjoyed Saara Dutton, and we'll tune in. Stay tuned for our future shows. Again, Storytelling on Orchard Street, the P&T Knitwear Bookstore on Orchard Street. Thank you all for listening or watching. Bye-bye.